I'd like to start by asking you to give us also an assessment of how do you see the war in Ukraine right now?
What's going on in Ukraine is a catastrophe. It's clearly a crime by the Russian Federation against Ukraine, against their people, against their country, against their presence, against their future. And it's a crime that should be punished. And it's something that should never happen in the 21st century. That is the main thing. Clearly, every indication that sort of measures the security level of the transatlantic atmosphere is clearly in red now. And we need to make sure that they will go up as fast as possible.
So how would you describe the level of threat to NATO countries at the moment from Russia?
I think there are two imminent conclusions that we need to draw from the Russian aggression. First is clearly military, that they have invaded another country in 2022. And the second one that is equally important is that they have done it based on grave, utter miscalculations, which basically means that there is no analytical basis for us to assume that they wouldn't try it against someone else. Just, logically it's very difficult to convince yourself that there is some sort of threshold that would stop them. Especially if you look at all the demands that they put forward already in December for the US and for NATO, where their intent is extremely clear. There is no ambivalence there. What they want to achieve is to demolish NATO and rebuild the European security architecture as this has been built, since Second World War.
So do you think that inevitably NATO will be getting involved in this conflict with Russia?
Militarily, I hope not. That's the policy, and this is a policy that we should follow. Making something twice as worse is never a good remedy for any situation. What is NATO's job now is to consolidate the Western support, make sure that the weapons aid will keep on going, that our policy answer, the sanctions, everything else will be as harsh as possible, and looking inside that the defense and deterrence posture of NATO will be ramped up very fast and very resolutely.
Looking at the particular situation of the Baltics, and in particular where we are in Estonia, and given all the history, are you concerned that that Russia will ultimately try to hit the Baltic countries as well? Do you think that the Baltics could be next?
Now, what we think is that we definitely cannot rule out the attack against NATO. The Baltics don't really stand out as individuals because what is his end aim is to demolish NATO. And you achieve this by demonstrating that, at least we think in his head, that the Article 5 doesn't function as it should function. And once he succeeds in demonstrating this, then you would have, then you achieve your goal without large-scale war. But I think all the indications coming from all the largest NATO allies, NATO as a whole, from NATO Secretary General, has been steadfast. There has been, no ambivalence in the messages that this is something that cannot be tried out, and this is something that will not be hampered, and this is something that will start to function for the first second when he would think of starting an aggression. So we are actually feeling quite confident, but clearly the hope or confidence or crossing our fingers has never been our strategy. The question is, what is our own preparedness and readiness level, and what is the Allied presence and Allied command and control structure that is credibly sort of radiate out this defense posture that would send a message that the price that you can potentially, or the gain that you can potentially win from invading a NATO country is astronomically then smaller than potential price that you need to pay for this.